Thanks for joining me for another cup. Holding two truths. The idea of holding two truths simultaneously has been a little bit of a revelation for me lately. I think there are times in my life previously where I was able to do this, but I really didn't think much about it. I just did it. But now, when I find myself in a situation, and I think most of us find ourselves in this situation once in a while, or maybe even frequently, where we don't get the outcome that we want. We get attached to an outcome, we work hard towards it, and we don't get it. And the easy thing is to say, blame myself, or maybe even blame something else. But the truth is there might be more than that involved. And our minds, again, we like to keep things simple. I can remember in many different jobs, including sales, where they say, keep it simple, stupid, KISS principle. So you always want to keep things simple, and that's good for gaining clarity, direction, creating energy around that. Maybe even in the sales process, where you sit down and help your client or potential client to gain clarity on the next step. There is nothing wrong with that. I operate that way most of the time. But I think when it comes to the bigger issues in life, and maybe even some of the deeper things that keep us from getting where we want and being what we want. When we think about those things, there's a lot of different psychology and factors that we may be wrestling with. And I think one of the things that I've found gives me great ability to move forward regardless of the outcome or the factors involved is to understand that life isn't always so simple. We try to keep it that way. Boy, wouldn't it be great if life was just simpler. But the truth is, it's not. There can be many factors that create situations and outcomes that we don't understand. That's where holding two truths simultaneously, having the emotional bandwidth, the emotional maturity, and understanding psychology enough to see that our limbic brain, for example, may immediately look for the negative, the threat, the bad things, take the blame. Oh, woe is me, to play the victim. And yet our prefrontal cortex, our rational mind, actually needs reason and understanding of why something failed. And sometimes that doesn't make sense. We did everything we could. We covered all our bases, and yet it still didn't work out. So that's got to be a failure on our part, right? Not necessarily. It's possible that you did everything you could, and yet things still didn't work out. Those are two truths that are very difficult to come to terms with, to reconcile. But the ability to live with that little bit of uncertainty, which one was it? Well, it was both. This not only helps us in understanding our own lives, but in understanding other people's lives. Somebody can be very dedicated to something and yet not necessarily look like it. There's intentions and there's outcomes. So somebody can have good intentions. That can be a truth. And yet they have no idea how to manifest that. So you look at that and you say, well, they didn't care or they didn't work hard. The truth is they may be working as hard as they possibly can. And the two truths would be that they are working hard, doing everything they can, and yet it still didn't happen. Now, I know that's not an empowering thing to think about, but I actually think the opposite. I think it's very empowering to understand that we don't control everything. That makes us value the things that we do control, which is our attitude and our understanding of how our minds and our motivations work. So as you think through this, again, being able to hold two truths. Now, I'm not saying that you can make excuses. What I'm saying is understanding that there are many different ways that things happen. And we can have a good understanding of it, and yet it still is beyond us what happened. That's okay. Coming to terms with that is, there's the essence of two truths, right? We believe we know, And yet there's a lot we don't. And being okay with that. So I think the next step, the evolution of holding two truths, is being okay with those two truths and being able to live with that ambiguity, that uncertainty, and being okay with that. Knowing that that's a part of life. The truth is, you hear this all the time. Nothing is guaranteed. You never know what could happen tomorrow. That's true. But that doesn't mean you can't plan and put together a path for getting where you want to. I think that's where sometimes holding two truths is a necessity for us to really be at our best. Because you can say, well, if I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, why worry about it? But the truth is, you have to worry about it. You have to make plans because things don't happen on their own. So there's two truths. There is uncertainty in the world, and yet we can make our own path. And somehow, if we wander too far in either one of those beliefs, we're not going to get what we want, or we won't be as successful as we want to be, or as happy. And I think that's where this holding two truths concept really impacts me. I can be happy even if things are tough. I have to say that one of the places in my life where this frequently comes up is in my physical fitness, my physical health. I can put myself through a strenuous workout, and I can hate it when I'm doing it because it's painful and it's rough and it's pushing the limits of what I'm capable of. And yet, the truth is, it's making me healthier. It's making me better. For me, I'm a happier, healthier, less stressed person when I can get some physical activity in that's pretty intense, and I don't enjoy it necessarily. So you can hate exercise and yet understand the benefits of it. You can hate parts of your job and yet understand the necessity of it because it keeps you employed, keeps you profitable, and realistically, it's important for us to understand that it's okay to be okay with things not being exactly as we want them to be, because they rarely are. So holding two truths is a skill that not only puts you in a great stead for happiness and success, but it's one of those things that is a marker of emotional maturity. And I have to admit, there are some areas in my life where my emotional maturity was maybe not where I wanted to be until I understood this concept. Allowing things to be what they are and being okay with it. Holding two truths simultaneously. So I hope that you understand this is a tough thing to do, but one that is so rewarding and so beneficial to you that I hope you take the time to think through. Where might you be trying to simplify things too much? And if you were able to hold two truths at the same time, you might be able to let go of some of blame or obligation, or maybe even some myopathy that you have when it comes to yourself and other people, which may lend itself to empathy and connection and understanding, which we could use a whole lot more in this world, not only for others, but for yourself. Thanks again for joining me for another cup, discussing how to hold two truths.